Welcome back, everybody, to the Board YouTube channel for Pick and Roll, the basketball betting and discussion show that goes live every weekday around this time, 11:20 a.m. Eastern Time. And we hope you guys have been enjoying the content so far this season. If you have, please make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Help us on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and make sure to hit that thumbs up button. It does go a long way to supporting the channel, helping us get on some more recommended pages. And today, as usual, we'll go through the recap, the unfortunate recap, including a hook from yesterday. We'll go through the official picks from today before discussion pieces surrounding many things. We'll talk about the Raptors and how they potentially hold the key to this trade deadline. We'll be talking about Cam Thomas briefly, and also we'll touch on the Miami Heat that just completed a trade about 5 minutes before we got started here in something that seems not significant, but could have some extra significance with the more information that we get. But we will pull up the record from yesterday, and unfortunately, it is an 0-2 day. We're hoping to get a bounce-back day with 2 official plays coming later today. Really unlucky with this Kawhi Leonard play. The Brooklyn Nets kept this one close for a lot of the game, which hopefully would have suggested a bit more from Kawhi. Kawhi was a little bit slow getting going overall. I mean, it was just like a consistent game for Kawhi, but unfortunately, this is a loss by the hook. 3 in a row that have been hooks have all come as losses, unfortunately. Pips, is this game? I feel like this could have easily cashed. What did you think watching it?
Yeah, it was the first half. Kawhi played 14 minutes. It was like, okay, this game we're gonna win easy. We're gonna rest our best players. Kawhi, I think 6 minutes into the second half, he had 8 field goal attempts out of 65 of the Clippers, and that's like 15% usage, and he is usually a 30% guy. And then when he was like, okay, I'll now need to start just cooking, and he went from the like 4 straight possessions to shoot. Like he was just aggressively took over the ball. Like Morris was ejected in the first half, so they started Reggie Jackson in the second, and now that was also a huge problem because like Kawhi would post up and Reggie just couldn't throw an entrance pass like 5 times, like straight, and just Kawhi just was like, okay, like if I need one to shoot, I'll take the ball in the half court and bring it by myself and go to score. And he did exactly that. And then he got benched because they couldn't stop, like couldn't get a stop. Came back in the fourth, and yeah, he was great in the fourth. He scored 9 points in 8 minutes, but it wasn't enough. We got another hook, and he missed the layup. Like he missed the layup in the last like 2 minutes of the game for a win, and yeah, that one hurts. And they didn't foul him; they fouled Paul George. He also didn't shoot technical free throws. Paul George did. Everything went to the Paul George part and he also was taken away. Like a lot of things went wrong for him to stay only by the hook under this one.
Yeah, so when I made this sort of counter here, I was hoping it would show that like it'll typically balance out, and not to say that it won't, or a large sample size it wouldn't, but it is unfortunate to have the 1-4 record on the hook counter since we began counting on this, and 3 in a row that have been hooks have all been losses. So it's a little bit unlucky in that sense, but all we can do is accept it and hopefully find some more winners today. Unfortunately, the other play as well was a loser yesterday as we go to the Bucks game where Giannis never really got going as the sort of superstar player that he is. Jrue Holiday was consistent here. Giannis, I mean, he was fine. It just wasn't an exceptional sort of Giannis game despite the Bucks' performance. What did you make of this one?
I don't agree with that. Giannis scored 24 points in 22 minutes. Like that's on pace
the
for
minutes
40.
thing. Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
look
he
deep
played
into it.
13 minutes in the first half for whatever reason. Like it wasn't a foul trouble or anything. He just
That was my
wasn't
mistake.
on the floor. Yeah, okay. Like
Oh, he was
when you
great.
see, yeah, 22 minutes, 24 points. Like with his 36 minutes, he's on pace for 40 plus points. Yeah, it was just a rest night for him, both him and Kawhi.
It wasn't foul trouble?
Yeah, it wasn't. Like he just played 30 minutes in the first half. Like, yeah.
Those are tough.
Yeah, I just also Kawhi Leonard played played only 14 minutes in the first half. He usually plays 18 minutes in the first half and 20 minutes in the second. He
Yeah.
played 40 minutes, 4 minutes, 1 point. Like,
Yes.
yeah. But
Oh
I
my
think
God.
I actually think great plays last night. Both were like great, like one of the best of the last couple of weeks. But yeah, like the
That's
20 minutes. That's
that's definitely a couple bitter ones to swallow there. But like I said, all we can do is try to amend that today and get back
yeah.
on track today.
Uh,
So yeah,
want to try to put it away, but it has been like 3 weeks, tough weeks that we lost 10 units. But like if you just count like the last 3 or 4 bets that we lost, it was like that's 8 unit swing or almost 10 unit swing. So yeah, it like happens, but not great. I also think the line got a bit sharper and every like also, if we compare it to like 2 years ago, it's unbelievably more difficult. Like 2 years ago, pro betting was like easy peasy, and now they
mm,
set the lines sharper. And I will just talk a minute about this because I think it's interesting for everyone that follows.
yeah,
So if you have like player averaging 25 points a game, and without any change in condition. If it's a difficult matchup, he will get the line 24 and a half. If it's a great matchup for him, it will be 25 and a half. That was like 2 years ago. And that was like small edge that's like easily like overtaken. Now we get same player, like I don't know for example now, but I know for a fact some players like Trey Young would have like 24 and a half in a difficult matchup and 28 and a half in a good matchup. So they are just like adjusting way too much, way more than they used to. So if like before we had like 1 point, like 24 in a that difficult matchup, 25 in a positive matchup. Now we get 24 in a like difficult matchup and 28 in a positive matchup, and when his regular line should be like 26 and a half. So they are adjusting way too much. And also, like there are so many big accounts on Twitter with huge followings that will attack the opening lines. And not only that they will bet it, they will post it on Twitter. And their followers, like 1,000 people, will bet the week opening lines. And these opening lines are, as we all know, like like the reason bookies made so much profit because they will only allow like quarter of a unit to bet on. Like these opening lines have like $25 to $50 like limit,
mhm,
so no one can get even half a unit on it. But they move the lines because so many people will bet it, and like before the show starts, almost every line that was good on opening line will be like gone. Yesterday I was going through the slate and every player that made sense. Jordan Poole had minus 140. Shea had a minus 140. DeRozan minus 45. Like area of these players had like super. They didn't move the line. They made it super juicy so that player will still like okay we can get this line, but they don't realize like recreational bettors. They don't realize like getting minus 140 is like not a great idea. Like that you need to win at like 60% for it to be a profitable.
and the problem with those openers as well is that like for the show we do, we can't give out something on an opener because then only like 20 people would be able to get it before it moves so far off. So it's
Yeah,
a bit unfair as well to kind of post that as a play or get that
yeah,
as a play on a show because like nobody's really going to be able to bet that for
yeah.
these ones. A lot the live viewers can pretty much always get the lines that are picked here. So keep that in mind. But what have you kind of changed any of the strategy given the fact that you feel the lines are sharper, or is it kind of status quo for you?
Just trying to find the edge in some other spots, and yeah, it's more like betting single parlays to get the volume, and also a bit more later betting because they add some bench players like in like I don't know, like 2 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours before the game starts, and those lines have bigger limits because they are added like to add
Yep.
already liquidity in the in the slate, and those guys like are new to the lines, and they'll take can make mistakes there, probably maybe a bit bigger than on like LeBron. They like if you have a line for like, for example, like I don't know, like Giannis. They're like before the show starts, it's difficult that it still has value because if it's some obvious mistake, everyone will crush it
Yeah,
very very quick.
understood. Understood.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope to try and circumvent this stuff today with the two picks. One of them is a straight player prop. One of them is a same game parlay. Well, they're both in the Hawks at the Pelicans game. First of all, we're going to the straight one on Clint Capella, looking for a big night from him.
So we have Capella to get double double, which is plus 105 at FanDuel. So I just think that this is amazing value. Last game against the Pelicans, Capella had 21 points and 19 rebounds. Almost the
That's a
same
lot.
lineup. It was only Zion playing that he's not today for the Pelicans, but CJ was playing, Brandon Ingram was playing, Jonas Valanciunas was playing, like everyone was playing. So it's a pretty same matchup. Only I think we can get a bit less minutes from Capella. It was an overtime game, but he still had I think 17 and 12, 17 and 15 like in the regular time. So it's still amazing. And also Clint Capella had some like when he was coming back from the injury, he had some low minutes game. But when he's like playing like over 24 minutes, he cashed this line last 14 out of the last 15 games. And Pelicans also struggle against the bigs that can rebound and that can offensive rebound and that are lob threat. And with DeJounte Trey both being capable, I will say actually Trey is the best lob thrower in the entire league.
Yes.
And with Trey and DeJounte both being able to throw that, also Bogdan is also capable. So we have a couple of guys that are able to get the ball to the Clint Capella, and we had like Daniel Gafford getting 21 points, Rudy Gobert having 17 points. Both also cleared the rebounds and got the double double. So I think we could be like down to the great game for Clint Capella.
So good stuff there. First one is the Capella on the double double. A lot of reasons. I mean, I don't have a ton of I love Jonas Valanciunas. I don't have a ton of faith in his defense, especially against a player like
Yeah.
this. Let's move into the second play. Like I said, also in the same game. This is the same game parlay with Ingram and Hunter as the focus.
So I'll just say like Ingram. I'll first read the bet. So we are betting Ingram over 21.5 points combined with DeAndre Hunter over 11.5 points. So Brandon Ingram, he is like our last two games. He had 26 against the Mavericks and 35 against the Los Angeles Lakers. And the previous game, he had 16 points against the Denver Nuggets, but he shot 5 for 17. So like if he made like 10 more buckets, he's still under 50% from the field. But the good thing is he had 3 days of arrest. He also shot above 0.5 in the last two. So the volume was always there in the first three games back, but he shot all 3 games before below 40%, and now he had 2 straight games above 500 shooting. So that's amazing. He also played some big minutes, 36 minutes in the last game. So I'll just say, like in the first 2 months of the season, he had average 27% usage, offensive usage, 27%, and he averaged 21 points. So he averaged 21 points on 27% usage.
Mhm.
And now, since he came back, his usage is 38%. So, like 11 more percent of usage offensive. Like that's like six to seven more field goals attempts, average more minutes, and getting like the Hawks matchup that do single cover with drop coverage, and he's elite in the mid range. And Hawks are the best spot up defense in the league. He doesn't shoot much spot up, so he just get inside, get to the foul line, shoot over, and they actually played this season, and that was probably the worst game of the season from Brandon Ingram. He had 16 points in a game where he shot 7 from 23. And that was the game, but then where Zion was playing, and Zion took like over 20 field goal attempts.
Mhm.
So without Zion and with him having such a huge usage, I think we could see like 25 field goal attempts for Ingram, 5 to 6 like free throws. So he should be able to cover this line pretty easily with that kind of usage and
Mhm.
also single cover. And the other Hunter with when I mean, they need Hunter on the floor like 36 minutes tonight to defend CJ and Ingram. And Hunter, when getting minutes, he just like when he get 28 or more minutes, he's over this line like 85% of the games. And with them heavily focusing on Trey Young and DeJounte on drives, I think we will see for like couple of great looks for the Andre Hunter on the wings. And also over the last two games, Hunter scored 26-20. He had in a blowout against the Phoenix Suns, he had 15 points. He's on a great form and great scoring, and they are going to him more, and they need him for defense. He's their best defender besides Capella, and
Yeah.
with Pelicans being dominant in like CJ and Ingram, they just need him on the floor, and when he gets the minutes, easily clearing this line.
Yeah, like both of the spots there. So two plays in the Hawks and Pelicans game. We'll recap them a little bit later on, but we'll now shift over into our discussion component of today. We'll start off with the more breaking news here, as it's been revealed by Shams that the Miami Heat have traded Dwayne Dedmon and a second round pick to the San Antonio Spurs, who don't know what's coming back in return. I think the assumption here that this one is going to be cash going back. And I think there's two things that we can one thing that we can definitely assume here, another one that we can kind of assume from my perspective. Miami have just opened up a roster spot where they can also stay under the luxury tax. So that's a big deal for them. And on the San Antonio Spurs side of things, I don't know if this is just they're taking whatever just so they can get that second round pick. Maybe this is center cover for potentially trading Jakob Pertl before the deadline.
Yep.
Pips, I know this one on the surface seems like, something very insignificant with Dwayne Dedmon involved, but what do you think of the extra forces at play here?
So a couple of hours earlier, it came the news that the Miami Heat is trying to trade Dedmon, second round pick, and Duncan Robinson. And it seems like no one took a buy. No one don't. I don't think anyone in the league wants that contract
Yeah, it's
from
I think
Duncan.
15 million a year for somebody who like doesn't play.
Yeah, and yeah, he is not being able to stay on the floor like at all, being one of the worst defensive players in the entire league. So yeah, you said it well. I think that they're just trying to stay under the tax, and they'll try to get someone maybe. And if they don't get like any good deal, they will just stay with this. I don't think they lose anything with this deal. They just
Yeah,
leave like so. With I think there is a possibility that Jacob is gone, and he's actually well. I think he's a great player. So whoever gets him will improve their roster. So makes sense for both teams.
yeah.
Nothing huge, but makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. For Pirtle, the Raptors have had a lot of interest in him in the last, I'd say, couple of years. He used to be a Raptor after all, but he's kind of like that rim protector that the team might be missing. Not to say the Raptors want to be a winning team this year, but maybe something for next season. We'll touch more on the Raptors in just a second here, but we also want to talk about Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas has been balling, straight up balling. It seems like when Cam Thomas gets minutes and he gets opportunities on the court, he has big effect. And this one was no different. Back-to-back games with 40 or more points. He is the youngest player to do that, not named LeBron James. He does struggle to stay in the rotation consistently. This could be maybe some boost to his trade value. This could be maybe him forcing his way into the rotation after Kyrie Irving is gone. Do you think there's a ton of, well, obviously it's significant, but what do you think this will do for Cam Thomas and I guess his career here?
Yeah, I watched the entire game last night, and I was like, man, like, what is he doing? Like, this is not normal. Like, some crazy shot making, and every 3-point shot he took, it looks so ugly, and it goes in. Like, I don't like his shooting form at all. It's the three, and then he had some like air balls, and which is like makes sense for when you look at him how he shot it. But his mid-range game, driving inside, and like he is actually pretty good and like a bit more patient now than he was before. But I would say like inside on the drives at the rim, he showed like he could do a lot of damage, and I think he could be a great player. He needs just to develop a 3-point shot and a bit more like focused on defense, and
Yes.
he could be like the guy for like next 12, 13 years to be a sixth man on some decent teams. Maybe even maybe even great ones, because I just see like players like I don't know, like Jordan Clarkson in him, or like that's like huge usage guys that's not very efficient but gets the scoring, gets the pace, gets the tempo. Yeah, that's the
Interesting.
kind of player I see in him.
That's interesting. For me with Cam Thomas, I feel like I know he's young, but I think that the defense will be problematic. I find that he might see himself in a role where he's on a worse team where he's just kind of got the green light to do as he pleases. He maybe like, Jordan Clarkson took a while to get to this point as well. Like he bounced around a lot of teams that didn't really find much use for him and then eventually settled in Utah and he became a sixth man of the year. And maybe a path like that makes sense for Cam Thomas, but I think he'll ultimately end up being like on these lottery teams where he's got a lot more of a green light because he can score. He definitely can score. And there's, I remember earlier in the season, a lot of Brooklyn Nets players were posting stuff like free Cam Thomas and things like that, which was, I guess, a testament to the dysfunction early on this season for the Brooklyn Nets and how much they've turned it around. But um, I think there's a reason he struggles to get consistent rotation minutes for the Nets. I wonder if this will be a player that maybe does get moved to the trade deadline. I just pulled up the DraftKings odds, which we don't necessarily agree with on the prices, but he is listed at plus 100. Now, I don't think that's a good price, as we talked about already, but that's what it is at the moment. Okay, let's move into the big discussion piece for today's show. The Toronto Raptors are seemingly the team that controls everything as it comes to the trade deadline. Adrian Wojnarowski, Woj, put out a tweet yesterday saying that everything trade discussion-wise was going through the Raptors yesterday. OG Anunoby is a hot topic, a hot commodity, as is Fred VanVleet. Gary Trent could get traded, and now reports are also coming out that it could be Pascal Siakam, who also gets traded at the trade deadline here. We spoke about this about a month ago. A lot has changed here for the Raptors. What would you say is the right direction for the Raptors to take as we get towards 2 days from now from the trade deadline?
Yeah, that's just like I think there are so many. They are not in a terrible place. Like whatever they choose, they have a team, and they whatever they choose, it makes sense. Like there is not like very wrong direction to go. Like if they continue to be like contending for the playoffs, that makes sense, but they'll never win it. If you trade a couple of guys and get to the bottom of the East and get good picks, that's also they will get. I mean, they are drafting pretty good, like over the last couple of years. I would say
Yeah, yeah.
they missed on some guys, but they still get like Barnes, obviously, like better than Suggs, of course. So like they get that pretty good. So I would say like in my opinion, I would like them to finally try to change something and to go to the route that you just don't tank, but give Scotty Barnes reps on ball that he needs to score. He will improve there. Fred VanVleet finally started playing some great games over the last couple of weeks, but I think they need to move him. I think I will be the first guy to say that Fred VanVleet will be like my first option now. Gary Trent, I will never move OG Anunoby because I just love him. But uh, did they just move him and give him the keys of the offense and hope they turn out to be like Kahi Leonard? I don't think that's realistic. So they should probably also move him. And do you think Pascal Siakam would like to play on a team that will lose like 75 to 80% of the games in the season?
Like with the Raptors?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he's unhappy with the product, and I'm from his standpoint, he didn't make the All-Star game. Like a completely unbiased here. 25, 8-6 is an All-Star if you're not on a team that at the time was 7 games under 500. He's got to feel a little bit upset about that. He's trying to get to a supermax contract. He has to make All NBA this season to do that. He's not going to get there because of the Raptors record. I'd feel a little bit pressed if I was him, for sure. But
if he moves to any team that will have a better record, he won't have those numbers.
That's also true. There are talks right now going out about the Brooklyn Nets having interest in Siakam. I'm not sure how concrete of reports these are, but yesterday in the Raptors media sphere, it was hysteria because there's talks between Siakam going to the Nets. The Raptors want Claxton, but if that trade happens, they also have to take Ben Simmons. So we talked yesterday about Ben Simmons a lot and how he's pretty much a zero on the court. So there are apparently some conversations that have gone on with Ben Simmons and Pascal Siakam involved. Now, I feel like the Nets are not going to trade Claxton, but yeah, go ahead.
Imagine like Scotty Barnes and Ben Simmons on the floor together.
Oh my, like you trust me, I've gone through all these because like Scotty Barnes, the way like he's a good player, but he gets defended like Draymond Green. They don't respect his 3-point game. I'd say rightfully so.
Ben
They
Simmons,
just avoid him. Ben Simmons is the same. So if it would be a disaster if you have both those guys. I very much feel like Masai Ujiri. I agree with HTC. Masai's not going to do this.
I think it will be a 3-point shooter next to them.
Yeah, you need 3 snipers next to them for that trade to work. You need as much shooting as you can get, which is just not feasible. But I guess for me, from what I think for the Raptors, OG I'd like to keep, obviously. But if he is genuinely unhappy with his role here, which is we spoke about this last week, if he actually wants a new team, then we at Raptors get apparently 3 first-round picks for him. Not great first-round picks, but still, that's a lot of value you can get for him right before you have to pay him in the offseason. I don't think that's a bad move to make if he's unhappy. If he's fine here, that's a player you got to keep because if you trade OG away, you're just going to spend the next 5 years looking for a player like him, and you already have him here, and he's still very young. For Fred VanVleet, I mean, he's been excellent recently, but the fit is a concern. And paying him at the end of the season is a bit of a concern of how that may handcuff you for the next 4 years. So whether there's a lot of interest, and it seems there is, and he really has peaked at the right time in terms of his trade value, the way he's playing, that's something to explore. I'd like to keep Gary Trent, but if he's not going to resign in the offseason, again, there's some value there. Siakam, I still find that one unlikely just because I feel like they're going to ask for a lot for Siakam, and I don't know if any team's going to give that midseason, but like you said, I'm open to like all possibilities here as a Raptors fan. Like if they want to retool around Siakam and Barnes, that's cool with me. If they want to trade Siakam, retool completely around just Barnes, then that also makes sense to me. In terms of like record, they can't really get much lower. They can go under the Magic and be like the 5th worst odds, but they're not going to get as bad as the Rockets, the Spurs, the Hornets, or the Pistons. So it's unrealistic to lose that many games. So there really isn't that much further down to go. The only way they can really go here is up, but I don't think they're going to want to go very far up here. But as Will just saying, the Raptors hold the keys to everything, it seems, because teams are waiting to see exactly what they are going to do. I guess for Scotty Barnes, because like it could come to a scenario where he is the focal point. How much belief do you have in Scotty Barnes for what you've seen this season? Would like to hear your thoughts from a non-Raptors fan.
So I just firstly like wanted to say something else. That's the worst thing I will, my opinion, the worst thing the Raptors can do is just trade one players and continue this doing the same. Like
Yes.
you either go for it or you don't. Like the I think being like trading only Van Fleet or only Gary Trent Jr. won't do anything for this team. So I would like to probably trade, like it's okay to leave Gary Trent Jr. and he's only 24. Like he turned 24 like a couple of weeks ago. Like
Mhm.
he's younger than OG, like well 2 years almost, like 1.5 year. So okay, the second part, Barnes, it's difficult, but I think he had some like his offensive game last season was great because teams didn't know how to defend him.
Mhm.
And now when they started defending him the way they should or last season, he struggles. And I think that's the something that a lot of second year players goes when they are like limited offensively, like, and I don't know if he'll be able to like be like quick to adjust, but moving Siakam and Van Fleet will for sure help him to get the reps so he can get there. And I think he can get there, but he needs the reps. He needs the reps.
Yeah, I think because it's kind of like a purgatory situation for the Raptors. So I agree. They either had like they really if they're going to move stuff, they have to move a lot and completely
Yeah.
reshape the team. And I think fans are prepared for that sort of change. I don't know if it's quite the DeRozan era. It kind of is in the sense that they hit their natural ceiling, but that natural ceiling was like a conference final one year, and that was going to Game 6 in that conference final. So they were like right there, and I think they gave it enough time. But then after the LeBron, so 3 years in a row to LeBron, it was like, okay, that's enough. We have to try to get to a new level and go. And they went for a guy like Kawhi Leonard. Now, obviously, that gamble really paid off there. In this scenario, it's a bit different. This is kind of like, it's not quite as bad as this, but it's like the Rudy Gay years where it just isn't clicking despite the talent. And a fresh start, a fresh foundation could be exactly what we need, what the Raptors need here. And there's a lot of trust from the fan base. Definitely Masai Ujiri. He's a pretty coveted piece from a front office
I'll,
perspective.
I'll also say like when the Rockets were like completely going like to rebuild, trade James Harden, trade everything, everyone was like it would be difficult to be the Houston Rockets fan, but I was like, it won't. Like, I don't mind losing games. We have young players playing hard and developing, and yeah, I'm not like a fan that hate losing games when you have like super young team, super talented team. Like, if you take a look at this season, like at the Orlando Magic or like Indiana Pacers, like I wouldn't mind if that was my team. Like,
Yeah.
okay, they are losing games, they are not great, but I love underdogs and young teams, and I love the Hawks when they had like Trey Young, Kevin Huerter, and John Collins, and like they were like a mess, and we missed the playoffs first 2 seasons, and then third season they made the conference finals. Like it was
And
so
took
fun
and
to
they
for
took the
an
Bucks.
underdog.
They took the Bucks to 6 games too.
Yeah, like it was like I was like ecstatic about it. Like young underdog team that didn't have any chance goes that deep. Like it was like great feeling. Like I was like enjoying it, and I was always like I never like I'm not one of the guys that some teams like went on a crazy run, win three championship, and becomes a fan of that team. Like even when I was younger, I always liked like that, like underdog mentality, young teams, developing players, good drafts, and getting the guys on like that are not undrafted guys, and like I love these teams. Like OKC this season, like it's amazing. Like they could actually make the play-in with Shea and bunch of young dudes. Like come on, like like and
Everybody likes those sort of teams. They're just
sometimes
fun.
I like these even more than like some team that will like Brooklyn Nets go and win like with Kyrie, KD, and Harden. Like so, I'm not as a fan of sport. I'm never like against going to just trade everyone and just start over. It's cool. It's interesting. It's fun.
I think what's nice about it is the freedom and the limited expectations where, okay, you missed the playoffs, whatever, but wow, you make a run at it. This is fun. They're playing well. Everybody's kind of playing for each other. It's a real unit there. Whereas the Nets are under such a big weight of their own expectations. I mean, there's good to both because the Nets are in a serious position where they can win a championship. Maybe not now because of the trade, but we'll see what else they can do in the next couple of days. But yeah, I mean, I've been through pretty much all the eras of the Raptors. You know, we can go back to the Bargnani days where it was hopeless. Then we go to 2013 with Rudy Gay, where it's kind of broken. Then you trade away Rudy Gay, all of a sudden become really good. We were that underdog team, that young team, that up and coming team. Then you get to that Nets point where you're under the weight of all those expectations. And then finally, you push through, you make the big trade and come to the NBA championship. And I think we've come full circle on this Raptors core to start fresh, but a lot of trust in Masai Ujiri. ACC say you got to trust the guy who got anything for Andrea Bargnani when they traded him to the Knicks. And also the Grievous Vasquez trade, which I talk about a lot, which got the picks that got Grievous Vasquez was traded in exchange for the draft picks, the draft rights to Norm Powell, and the pick that eventually would become OG Anunoby. Grievous Vasquez was out of the league a year later. So a lot of trades, big trades like that. We'll trust Masai with that. But if he trades for Simmons, all my faith in him goes away if he actually makes this trade for Ben Simmons, as I feel like it is unlikely, though. But a lot of fireworks next 2 days coming for the Raptors. All right, enough on that. We'll wrap up the show here. We'll go to the recap of the two plays for today. First of all, we have in the Hawks-Pelicans game where both plays are going to be featured. We have a Clint Capella double-double, which is plus 105 at FanDuel. Further down, we have Brandon Ingram over 21.5 points paired with DeAndre Hunter over 11.5 points, minus 110 at DraftKings. DeAndre Hunter, his point section, it'll be in the second section on the 12-plus line, just so everybody is aware. But thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. Let's hope to bounce back today with the picks. We appreciate everybody tuning in to the full episode, listening to the discussion piece as well. We both enjoyed doing this. We'll be back tomorrow for more of the same, more official picks, more discussion pieces, and maybe we'll see some more trades happening today for us to voice our opinions on. But until then, we will see you tomorrow. Thank you again. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, The Board, for more content like this once every weekday. And also make sure to hit that like button to help us get it some more recommended pages. Thanks again, guys.